I say what I mean. And, a lot of times it's gotten me into trouble. But at the same time, I was speaking out about the same things over and over and over and over. And see, to me, that's a waste of my time, especially if no one's listening. And
Yeah.
and it gets frustrating. I was not the only qualified black man to take a job as a manager, but it just seems like there's a quota of two.
Yeah.
You hope that what you have done in your life will help others, but it doesn't appear as such.
Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and today we are joined by legendary Major League Baseball player and manager, Johnny B. Dusty Baker Jr., to talk about his new memoir, Crossroads, a memoir in baseball and life. In this book, Dusty reflects on his extraordinary life and baseball career while sharing the hard-earned wisdom and lessons he's learned along the way. In today's episode, which is so very special to me, I get to talk with Dusty Baker about his decades-long career in baseball, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, and what has made him one of the greatest coaches in baseball history. Our book club pick for June is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and we'll discuss this book with Mary H.K. Choi on Wednesday, June 24th. Everything we talk about on each episode of The Stacks is linked in our show notes. And if you like this podcast and want more bookish content and community, consider joining the Stacks Pack on Patreon and subscribing to my newsletter Unstacked on Substack. Each place offers different perks. You can find community conversations and virtual book clubs on Patreon, and my writing and hot takes on the latest literary and pop culture news are over on Substack. Plus, your support makes it possible for me to make The Stacks every single week. To join us, go to patreon.com/thestacks for the Stacks Pack and tracythomas.substack.com for my newsletter. All right, now it is time for my conversation with Dusty Baker. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you're so silly.
All right, everybody, we are here. This is maybe the most special episode of The Stacks we've ever done. I am joined today by, well, he's probably like the greatest person to ever be in baseball, according to me. He is my Uncle Dusty Baker, manager, World Series winning manager, World Series winning player, all around baseball guy. They call you Forrest Gump of baseball, which I think is true. Dusty, welcome to The Stacks.
Hey, Tracy, I am so proud of you now.
Oh.
Now, I met you when you were like 2 years old or 3 years old or something like that.
Probably. I mean, you knew my dad before I was born.
Yes, I guess I did. Yeah. So
as long
I'm
as
proud
I've
of
been
you, what you're
alive.
doing. Thank you. I mean, it's a pleasure and honor for me to do this with you.
An honor for you, please.
Yeah.
It's an honor for me. Well, when I first asked you, you were like, I don't really do podcasts. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm getting a no from Dusty. This is a pretty harsh no.
But we're doing it though.
We're doing it. Okay, so this is where we always start. Tell people in about 30 seconds what your book is about.
It's about my life, and it's about the ups and downs and turns and decisions that had to be made along the way. And it goes from my childhood all the way up to where I am now. We wrote the book 2 years ago, so it cut off at 75, and it's just about me to probably to try to help people. That's what it was intended to be and do.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I love the book so much, and I'm not just saying that because I know you, but one of the things I love the most about the book, and I called Brady, my brother, when I was maybe like a quarter of the way through, and I said, oh my God, it's so good because there's so many people that we have met over the years who are Dusty's friends who are like fancy people, like Ralph Garr Jr.
Yeah, but see, he's my godson. I held him the day he was born too. So
right. But like hearing the backstory of all these people and how they fit into your life was really special for me.
Well, thank you. Well, something, the key is that, we're still friends. I mean, we were friends from the beginning. We've had some ups and downs and fights like all friends do. from playing marbles to baseball to life to girls to all kind of things. But we remain friends after all these years. Some white, some black, some Mexican, some and after a while, we don't have a color to each other. He's just Kenny, or he's just Dennis, or he's just Ralph. And it's great to have friends like that because see, one thing about it is I can't BS them, especially if I'm in the public somewhere because they will tell on me. No, that ain't how it happened. Let me tell you the real truth. And so it's great to have those guys in my life that keeps me in check as well.
Yeah. Wait, I have a question I've never asked you before. What is the B in Johnny B. Baker? Is it
Yeah,
just the
well,
letter?
yeah, it's just a letter. Everybody asks me that. They try to give me a name. People like, oh, is it Beauregard? Is it Barney? Is it Benny? I'm like, no, it's just B. And see, my dad's from Florida, and in the South, there are people that their names are JC. JC Martin or JC, whatever it is. And people are like, well, what does it stand for? Doesn't stand for nothing. Just, like Johnny B. Good. And,
Yeah.
I'm Johnny B. Baker Jr.
Right. As I was reading the book, I was like, I've never asked that question. I knew that that was your name, but I was like, maybe it stands for something. I never
But you know
thought to
something?
ask.
They have never called me anything other than Dusty in my family by any of my relatives. My dad is Big John. My dad's Johnny B. The only people that call me Johnny were guys that I went to high school with. I mean, I'm sorry,
Mm.
elementary school with, because in
Mm.
elementary school they wouldn't call you by your nickname. And in Riverside, we all had a nickname. We had Buddhist, we had Beast, we had Roach, we had Chile, we had everybody had a nickname. My nickname was Dusty.
Yeah. Well, my dad, obviously, he was a nickname guy, Chico.
Oh yeah, Chico.
Yeah. And so you knew everybody who knew my dad from before high school because they still called him Leroy or Junior because he was a junior too.
Right.
Um, Wait, how did you meet my dad?
I met your dad through Billy North, and Billy North was my teammate. No, actually, me and Billy North met in 1969 at Arizona State, and
Mm.
and he was with the Cubs, and I was with the Braves. We were going out with the same girl, and we didn't know it.
How
And
scandalous.
yeah, that's how me and Billy met, and we became partners. We put the girl down. It's
Oh
like,
my
nah, man, she
gosh.
ain't no good. And so we became partners, and then we became teammates with the Dodgers. And then I met your dad, through Billy North. Every time I'd go to Oakland to see Billy.
That's so funny. I know there's so many questions as I was reading the book that I was like, I've never thought to ask about that, because
Yeah,
someone as like an elder in your family. And it's like, I just, though I do always ask you all my baseball questions and I do have some of those for you.
I bet you
But
do.
before I sure do. Um, Before we get to that though, well, actually, I this is a question I've asked you 100 million times, but I want you to tell people who are listening to my show because obviously I have a book show, so everybody might not be a baseball person, and I've heard people ask me this before, which is like when you're a manager of a baseball team and your professional players have been playing baseball their whole life, what is it that the manager is doing day to day? What is your actual job? Because you're not telling them how to hold the bat or like,
Mhm.
get the out at first base. They know that. They're adults, they're professionals. So what does it mean to be a baseball manager?
Well, to be a manager, you're running the team, but without running it in a dictator type, situation or feeling. You run in every department, whether it's pitching, hitting, fielding, base running, but you have to let people do their jobs. You have to let people, you can't micromanage everything, but you have to know a little bit about every facet of the game. Granted, we all have like specialties. Mine was more hitting, outfield play. I didn't know much about infield play. I didn't know much about catching, but I've asked a lot of questions from people that I played with. I was very inquisitive. As a manager, the whole thing is to let them play. I was listening to Miles Davis years ago on a he had a interview, and he said he's the the maestro of the band. He lets everybody. He had Billy Cobham. He had Herbie Hancock and all these famous guys playing with him in Montrose, and he would let them have their solo. But when he wanted to come in, he would like hit his horn, boom, boom, a couple times, boom, boom, and that means wrap it up. I'm about to come in. And I always thought about that as a, as a manager, kind of you let guys do their thing, you let them play. But I'm the leader of the band and the orchestra. My job is to let them play and me direct them in the right direction.
Right. And I feel like something that I've learned from you over the years is that the other thing is that you're really good about sensing what's going on with your players
Mm-hmm.
internally. Like whether like someone needs a day off or someone needs, to go home for an extra night or like take a
Mm-hmm.
break or whatever that looks like. And so I'm wondering like what is it what is it that you pick up on in those moments? Because I know all your players who have played for you, they loved you over the years. Like you are one of the most, they did that piece on you. Was it in the Athletic where it was like everyone was talking about how great you were? And it was just
Yeah.
like every
Not
player in the
everybody. Not
history of
everybody.
baseball.
Not everybody, though. I'm not
Ooh,
doing my job if
who wasn't in
everybody.
there? Who
I
didn't
don't
say
know.
nice things? But
No,
like, what is that part of it like for you? How are you sensing
well,
like the personal vibes?
something I learned that from coaches in the past, and I've learned from coaches and managers how to be, which is important, and how not to be.
Mm.
And I learned from my high school coach. I remember I was missing layups, and my mom and dad had just separated, and he asked me what's wrong. I was missing layups and free throws, and I said nothing. And he said, "No, something's wrong." And so I broke down and talked to him about it. And then one time when I was with the Dodgers, Jim Gilliam said something was wrong at home. And he says, "You want to talk about it?" And of course I said no. And then later I broke down and said, "Hey man." And so therefore I've been able to use my experiences in my job to tell personality differences. I mean, if a person's talking a lot and he doesn't talk hardly, well, what's wrong? Or if a person doesn't talk and all of a sudden he's talking, and I'm like, hey, something's wrong.
Mm.
Or you can just see mood changes and attitudes. And, people are looking for somebody to talk to, especially when they're having problems. But the hardest thing is to trust somebody, and if somebody divulges their deepest, darkest secrets to you, you cannot tell anybody unless it's life and death or a situation that is going to be a police matter. You have to take it to your grave, and people really appreciate, the fact is everybody's like, most people like to gossip, or they say,
It's true.
oh yeah, they say, I hate gossip, but what else am I supposed to do with it? Well, what you're supposed to do with it is eat it. And
Yeah.
so, these are just some lessons that I've learned, from various people along the way.
I like gossip, but I mostly just like hearing people's secrets. Like
Hmm.
I love to know all the tea. Which is, I mean, that's why I love after your games coming back and hanging out with you and being like, okay, tell me about so and so. Like I'm always want to know because I feel like to have a good sense of people is so important in any sort of like managerial role or any sort of team role to have a good read on people and to like be receptive and also to know like when to step in or when not to.
Well,
And
that's
so
the hardest
knowing all the
part,
gossip
Tracy.
is good.
The hardest part is knowing when not to step in. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times they don't want you to step in, or they might want you to step in at a future point in time. you
Right.
know and like the way I am and the way I was as a manager, um, I didn't make up any of that to myself. Some of it came from my family background, being the oldest of five, so therefore I was probably more responsible than most. And then being a captain's on my teams, and then being the leader when I was in the Marines, or a lot of times I didn't want to lead, and I was forced to lead by somebody, pushing you. Then after a while, you quit ducking it because you're going to be pushed out there anyway, and so you just take the lead. And all my life, I had trouble really, fitting in. I never
Right.
really fit in, and so I kind of like, took it upon myself. So, okay, man, if I'm never really going to fit in, then I'll just, do my own thing, and my own thing ended up being right most of the time, or I was ahead of, or I was ahead of schedule. Like I'd like this clothes, that clothing or that clothing, and everybody's like, "Man, why are you wearing that? That's so weird." And then 6 months afterwards, and everybody's wearing the same thing, and so just a lot of times, you're different, but you're only different because you're probably ahead of schedule or ahead of your time.
Right. But okay, you said that everything is has nothing to do with you and that you learned it from other people. But at some point, you went from being like this rookie manager with the Giants to being Dusty Baker. I mean, you went from being a guy who was turned out to be good at his job, but they took a pretty
Mhm.
big risk on you. They didn't know. And then eventually you become the guy they bring in Houston when the team is in full-fledged crisis. You don't just
Right.
bring in anybody. So there must be some things that you've developed that have become like your signature in what
Well,
you did.
something I don't know, Tracy. Honestly, I just tried to be myself and
Okay.
tried to be honest as I could. And a lot of people, recognize things in me that I didn't recognize or even want to see.
Mm,
Al Rosen is the one who told me that I'd be a fine manager. I didn't want to manage. I didn't want to be in baseball, but he called me and said, "Hey, man, we want to talk to you about a job." And I said, "No, I got a job." I was a stockbroker at the time, and
right.
I was studying for my seven. I had passed the six at 22, and I was trying to take over our company. After my brother, went down with manic depression, and so I said, "Hey, I don't want to match." And I said, "You don't even know me." And he says, "Well, I've seen how you are across the field." And I was like, "Really?" And that's one thing that I tell young people: you never know who's watching you, and the person that's watching you could be the guy that's going to give you a break in life. Because at that time, I was at a crossroads, and I really needed a break, in life, because my marriage is upside down, my finances are upside down. I mean, my brother Vic, was in and out of institutions. I mean, I didn't know what to do, and to me, the Lord put me in that situation at the right time of my life. But I also tell young people you have to be prepared to recognize the breaks when you're getting them, because you
Yeah.
you 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 don't know. If you don't recognize your breaks, you won't follow that lead, and a lot of times that lead, will take you to heights that you never thought about before. I never thought about really the Hall of Fame, tell you the truth, or being manager of the year or nothing. I just like to win, and I figured I like to win. I like to make money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And they come hand in hand. And
Yeah.
you don't make money and then win. It don't
Right.
happen like that.
Right.
You
Right. Right.
win, and if you win, everything else will take care of itself.
I want to come back to winning and losing, but before we do, I want to just there's a moment in the book that you're sort of alluding to, which is like knowing when the opportunity presents itself to you. And there's this little anecdote in the book where the Giants have sort of offered you the job to be manager. And you are like, I don't know. I got to go take a break and think
Mhm.
about it. I got to go up to Lake Arrowhead. And your dad's like, yeah, like go pray on it. Like go see if you get a sign. And you're up at Lake Arrowhead and you get a tap on your shoulder, literally. And you turn around and the owner of the Giants is standing there and he says, Dusty, come work for us. Come manage. And you call your dad and you're like, "Hey dad, this crazy thing happened. I ran into the owner of the Giants." And you're like, I still don't know." And your dad says to you, "Hello, that is a sign. The man tapped you on your shoulder. What is wrong with you?" So
Right.
it's funny to hear you say you got to know when the opportunities present themselves because you still almost missed it.
Yeah. And you know why? Because that's not the sign I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the last. I mean, I did not want to see that. And uh, like I said, he tapped me on the shoulder. I had known Bob Lowry from when I was on the Giants the one year in '84, and he tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and it was Bob Lowry, and I hadn't seen him before that, and I didn't see him the whole weekend after that. So if I'd have gotten there 2 minutes earlier or 2 minutes later, I'd have never seen him. And my dad goes, "Son, if you went up there to pray for a sign and the sign tapped you on the shoulder even before you said a prayer," he said, that's something that you don't want to see. So
Yeah.
so you better, if you're going to ask for something, then you better accept what you ask for.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about winning and losing. When we were in Miami earlier this year for the World Baseball Classic, we were at dinner and you said to me, or you said to all of us that the wins are never as good as the losses are bad. And I've been thinking about that ever since. That was what, February. I've not stopped thinking about that because I relate to that so much. I feel that I have that competitive nature, though obviously not a athlete. But I'm wondering, like, if that's true for you, how did you continue on in a sport where you're playing 160 plus games a year? You're losing a lot. Even when you're winning a lot,
You're
you're
losing
losing a
it.
lot. Like, how do you mentally do that
Mhm.
as a person who feels the losses so hard?
Yeah, well, I feel them hard, and they wake me up at night sometimes. For weeks after came back from the WBC, I thought about that one game that we blew
Against
against
Netherlands.
against the Netherlands. I mean, I was wondering, hey man, should I have done something different, or is there anything I could have done, or whatever? Because I take the losses personally, and like I said to you that night, I still can't figure out why the losses are so much greater than the wins. 'Cause I think I'm supposed to win, you know. And my daughter asked me when she's 47 now. She said, "Dad, why must you win all the time?" And I was like, she might have been 8 years old. And I was like, what? She goes, why must you win all the time? I said, well, because I'm supposed to. Well, she said, Dad, that's no answer because I wouldn't let her win if we were playing jump rope or jacks or tiddlywinks. I'll let you get close, but I'm not going to let anybody win, and I told her that they don't let you win in life. If you win, it's because you beat somebody and you try to beat them fair and square. But to answer your question, that keeps me driven. And I remember, I don't know if I said in the book or not, my dad, when we lost to Anaheim in 2002, my dad said, son, if you didn't win that one, I don't know if you'll ever win. And that just stuck. I was like, man, I got to prove my dad wrong. Because, see, back in the old days, the old dudes, negative motivation was prevalent. Now you can't use negative motivation. Everything's about positive motivation. But I believe that there's a certain amount. If you just sprinkle a little bit of negative motivation, you can't have too much. But that kept me driven in order to win in Houston, and then I wanted to win again. And which is one reason why I went to Nicaragua because I like that feeling of winning, and I can't stand that feeling of losing.
Yeah. My dad was a negative motivation person, and so I'm kind of partial to it. I got a
Yeah, but
little,
that
chip on
generation,
the shoulder.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that generation was like that.
I know.
You
I
know,
know. But I tell my kids, like the other day, my boys were playing like a little soccer game and one of them was losing and the other one was like, you can have another turn. And I said, don't give him another turn.
true
He said,
that.
why not? I said, no. I said, if you're going to play and one of you is going to win, you got to win so that the other person knows they really won. Because if you start giving away the win, then you don't even know
True.
if you really won or not. I'm like,
That's
one
true.
day he'll beat you. He'll turn around and beat you. Don't worry about that. But
And you're not
you
gonna
got to
like it
know that
either.
you won. Yeah. But
Yeah,
like, if you start handing out wins to each other, you don't even know what it feels like to have done a thing all the way to the end. I kind of like
yeah.
got mad at them and they were like, we're just sharing. I was like, don't share.
You're tough, Tracy.
I am. I blame you guys. All my dad's friends who were competitive and winners and
Yeah,
athletes and you guys all like were just high achieving
but you
people.
saw, but you saw him. I mean, firsthand playing pool, playing cards,
Right.
playing anything, huh? And
Yeah,
nobody's gonna
cuz when
let
I
anybody
beat
win.
him,
Oh
yeah,
no,
cuz
he
like
didn't
then
like
when
that.
like I remember I'll never forget. I was probably 7 or 8 and Brady was probably like 12 and we did a foot race from our house to the telephone pole and I beat Brady. And I was like, this is the best day of my life. And if they had been out here letting me win all the time, do you think I
And
would have cared?
What did Brady say?
He was like, "Oh yeah," like he was trying to act like
Yeah,
he let me win, but he
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
because
No,
he
you
never
didn't.
let me win before.
I believe that. Hmm.
um, you hate losing. You win the World Series in 1981 as a player. Then you go on to have a 40-year non-winning the World Series streak. You take 5 teams to the playoffs as a manager, teams that had no business being there. The Cubs had
Yep.
no, they had not, the Reds, the Nationals were good when you got to them, but still, you took them. You had great teams, you had sort of random teams, but you never actually won one. Was there a point in your life where you kind of came to terms with this idea that maybe you wouldn't win the World Series as a manager?
Yeah. When I was looking around at some of my friends as players like Dick Allen, Billy Williams, Ernie Banks, Charles Barkley, some of these guys, I was like, well, maybe, but I just couldn't accept it. And I kind of semi accepted it when there was a 2 year period between the Nationals and the Astros, and I
Right.
didn't have an offer. And when I left the Nationals, we had won 95 and 97 games. I mean, that really
Ugh.
hurt because I thought I did a great job. But when you do a good job and when you didn't.
Yeah.
And then, you know, rarely as a manager, I wasn't fired. I just wasn't rehired, which is almost the same thing. But, that one hurt because I really, really liked Washington, D.C. a lot.
Yeah.
And that was as much my city in a short period of time as any city that I've been around. And I got a call from from the Philadelphia Phillies, and they wanted me to interview. And I went there, interviewed, thought I did a great job. Saw some old friends, Larry Bowa from my hometown, and different guys who I interviewed with. And went back, and they said that they were going to go with Joe Girardi. And and I like Joe. I mean, and I said, okay, man. And so I was a little down about it. And Darren came to me and he goes, Dad, maybe God didn't want you to go to Philadelphia. And I was like, really? I mean, little old dude, that's what I'm supposed to be saying to you. You know what I'm saying? and so next thing, about 2 days later, I got the call from the Astros, because they had the scandal and all this stuff, and that was again out of my control. But like I said, there's too many instances in my life where, I can't believe in God,
Right.
because it's like it's just these random things just don't happen to everybody, and they kept happening to me in my life, even though I didn't deserve most of them. But I try to do the most with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you won. That was
Yeah,
so great. That was
yeah.
so great.
Yeah,
That
and
was
then
so
I wanted
great.
to win again. And you know something? I mean, that run in Houston was as good a run as I mean, they were. If we'd have won two more games, one each year, we'd have went to the World Series 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And and that's what I always wanted to do because see, as a kid, I was a Laker fan and a Dodger fan, and I didn't like the Celtics because they beat the Lakers, and
Right.
I didn't like the Yankees because they beat the Dodgers,
Right.
and they won every year, like 10 years in a row or something like that. And I'm like, and once I became a manager, then that's the kind of run I wanted to get on.
Right.
But tell you the truth, I'm like, hey man, why can't we win every year? And then now I'm in a position where I think I can help, build a team because I know what it takes to build a team. I know what you need. I you need speed, you need some this, and you need some that. You sprinkle a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you can win. And you can win for a sustained period of time. And that's where I am now. I'm in a consulting role. I do wish I would be dependent on more, but but who knows? Maybe in the future.
I seem to remember you telling me after you won, you were going to do one more year and you were going to retire. And then the next thing I
Mhm.
know, you're back to work. So I don't,
Well, not
I know
really back to
Melissa's
work.
sick of you.
No, no, but you know something? Uh, uh, I did retire. I retired from the field
Sure.
every day because I don't have the energy. Like I've had a stroke 13 years ago. I've had three ablations, two, defibrillators,
Yeah.
pacemakers. That's enough. And I need some time with my grandkids and some time to see Darren play and enjoy some of these, some of the things I've worked so hard for. But I learned from my dad because see, my dad worked two jobs for 36 years. My
Mm.
dad was working. And so I talked him out of, he worked for the military as a civilian. He worked for Sears as a salesman. And he was like salesman of the month for like 20 months in a row or something like that. So I talked him out of retiring. Into retirement. I said, Dad, why don't you just stop? He goes, okay. Well, then my dad almost died. He got deathly sick. And then he went back to work, working like 15 to 20 hours a week,
Oh,
and he got well. So, you have to do something. You know, you can only play golf so much. You can only play, fish so much. And I remember when Bill Walsh, who was like one of my main mentors, we would have these sessions at his house, and he had a grease board, and I still have all Bill Walsh's cards that he gave me, how he started the 49ers and the papers off the grease board. And the thing that I remember probably most, he said that most men get depressed about 65 to 70 years old because they quit working, they have nothing to do, and then they have nothing to replace that 70% of time that work occupied. I mean,
right.
that's and if you work 40 hours a week, how do you replace 40 or 50 hours a week? And so you have to do something to keep your mind sharp. Plus, I'm very aware that dementia is running my family. My dad died of dementia. My mom died of dementia. So therefore, I try to not use MapQuest unless I'm lost. I try not to. I try to memorize telephone numbers. Try to do whatever I can. To stay sharp, including some part time things. Even though Melissa says she thinks I work too hard, but.
When I started the Stacks, I learned pretty quickly that having my own business was going to involve a lot more than just reading great books and talking to my favorite authors. There were episodes to schedule, scripts to write, logos to create, social media to manage. And as you all know, my to-do list was endless. I was spending so much time sorting through all of these logistics. It was hard to find time to actually read books. When you're starting your own business, it helps to have a tool that can simplify everything so that you can focus on what actually matters most to you and your business. And that's why I want to introduce you to Shopify. Shopify makes starting your own business feel seamless with hundreds of ready-to-use templates to build your brand identity. They've got AI tools to help you write copy and enhance images. They've got built-in marketing tools to create bespoke emails and social media campaigns to reach even more people. And the best part is you can manage all of your tasks in one place, which makes your life easier and your business operate way more efficiently. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, from household names to startups. And you know what? Now might be a perfect time for you to add your business to that list. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/thestacks. Go to shopify.com/thestacks. That's shopify.com/thestacks. Here on The Stacks, I have talked to so many debut authors whose journey to get their books published wasn't always smooth. They'd committed their ideas to the page, but they faced the challenge of finding a publisher to bring their stories to life. If you're in a similar situation, I'd like to introduce you to Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark is an award-winning publishing platform that provides everything you need to successfully self-publish your book. It costs nothing to sign up and upload your book, and with free publishing tools and resources, you can focus on writing your story, while Ingram Spark makes it possible to share with the world. When you self-publish with Ingram Spark, you are automatically plugged into one of the publishing industry's largest global book distribution networks, giving you access to over 45,000 retailers, including independent bookstores and libraries. Ready to get started? Get 15% off your first order of 15 or more books using code STACKS15. This offer expires at the end of the year, so get started today. Summer is finally here. It is my favorite season. There is so much good stuff happening over here at the Stacks. You all know about the podcast. Of course you do. You're listening to it right now. But do you know about the Stacks Pack on Patreon and my newsletter Unstacked on Substack? Listening to this show supports the work I do. It goes a super long way. But if you want to go the super duperest, longest, most extra miley way, you should consider supporting us on those platforms. You get perks and it makes it possible for me to make the show. Plus, between now and September 22nd, any paid member of the Stacks Pack on Patreon or a subscriber to my newsletter gets my nonfiction reading guide. It is 30 nonfiction books that I love. It is exclusive to both of those platforms. And you know you want it. Plus, it'll be gone come September 22nd. So you've got to join. And in addition to getting the nonfiction reading guide on the Patreon, you've got access to our book club meetups, to our private Discord. You get a bonus episode. You get the mega reading challenge. And then in the newsletter, you can hear me give all of my hot takes on books, pop culture. Every month, I rank every book I read in order from least to most favorite. I'm giving you the inside tea on all of these books. You also get that bonus episode each month. Making this podcast is a collaborative effort, and by supporting the Patreon and the Substack, you allow me to make this podcast alongside my incredible team so they can do what they do best. So if you're looking to meet other bookish friends, if you want to hear more book conversation, join me on Patreon, Substack, or both. You could join the Stacks Pack at patreon.com/thestacks, and you can subscribe to the newsletter at tracythomas.substack.com. And both of those links are right there in the episode description. All right, see y'all in the stacks.
One of the things about you that I think is so great that I don't feel like you talk about nearly enough is that obviously you know so much about baseball. You've been in the game for forever, but you are a man with many interests. You read, you listen to music, you care about a lot of different things. And so I'm wondering how at all, if you feel like those things have, like, I mean, you hunt, you fish, there's so many things that you're passionate about. And I'm wondering how those things have played into your sort of success professionally, if at all.
Well, I think those things have played a major role because it keeps me yearning for knowledge and it keeps me inquisitive, for things instead of just saying, okay, man, I've accomplished this and I know this and I know that. And, you can learn from everybody. And, it's as you get older, the hardest thing to do to probably is to listen because like you've experienced so many things, you can chime in on almost oh yeah, let me tell you about that time, or oh yeah, I was over here and I did that. And as you get older, if you force yourself to listen, then there are things that you can still pick up and still learn. And it helps me, I'll be 77 next month. It helps me having a wife that's 12 years younger than me, and it helps me to have a son 27 and a daughter 47 because they keep me young and they keep me hip on what's up. Now, the only thing that I can't seem to grasp, is the telephone and this technology.
Can we tell the people what you do with your emails? Can we please share that secret? It's the best thing about you that nobody knows.
Go ahead, Tracy. You say it.
You tell them. How do you get your emails? What happens with your emails?
Well, they pile up and then I erase them and then I erase the wrong one sometime or I have to send it to them. Or
what does Melissa do with your emails?
Oh yeah, she answers or she hooks me up. And
she prints them out. She prints them out.
Yeah, that's because I like printed stuff, because I can read it, I can mark it up, I can go over. I mean, see, I make a list on what I'm going to do every day in the morning.
Like a to-do list.
Yeah, to-do list. And I try to do that on my phone. But sometimes I got my list on the phone, but I forget to even look at the phone. Because sometimes I refuse to be a slave to that phone. I mean, and one time I was in Alaska with Darren and Kenny. I said, Kenny, I want you to film me, man. Okay. He goes, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to throw this phone in the water. And I said, you film it and it'll go viral because you don't know how many people want to do the same thing. And so, so I was all poised and ready to throw it in the water. And he was like, okay, let's go. I couldn't do it. because I thought about how much the phone costs or how many contacts I had in that phone.
Oh my God.
But someday,
Someday.
if you hear about me throwing this phone in the water, because see, sometimes I get tired. You know, you get tired of always having to answer
This is
stuff.
very relatable. Okay. I'm
Is
with
it
you. I
really?
also, I write a handwritten to-do list every day.
Oh
Every
yeah.
work day, every work day.
Yes,
And then
and
in
me
my
too.
phone, I have another list when I'm not in front of my yellow pad where I just
Yeah,
add things in case I forget. Like, oh shoot, don't forget to do that. I'll put
right.
that in my phone, but then
Yeah,
I'll
my
check
calendar
that
or something.
list and put it in. Yeah. No, when I found out that Melissa prints your emails, it's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. I think it's so funny.
And the only time she gets mad it is when she has to go get some more ink, some
Toner.
more toner. And then I'm like,
It's
hey,
so silly.
or if I want color, she goes, color. She said,
In this economy,
that's right.
color.
I'm telling you. And then we had to go buy a bigger printer because
Oh my
just like
God. It's
because
like the
the other
only
one
thing
wasn't
you're
printing.
printing. It's not like you're printing a bunch of other things. You're just
No,
printing emails.
that's the only thing I'm printing. Yeah. Or you know, contracts or things that I have to I can sit down, study, read, dissect. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
who
It's
told you
crazy,
that?
but
Melissa?
you told us at
Oh, did I?
dinner.
Okay,
I
okay.
think Brady knew. Brady brought it up at dinner a few months ago, and
Yeah,
I think we were all laughing so hard. It's just the funniest thing ever. Because I also think like you're you, so you don't understand fully what you mean to people and to the world because you're you. But like
right.
you are Dusty Baker, underlined exclamation point with like a little crown, like you are the Dusty Baker. And so the idea that you, one of the most accomplished people in all of baseball, doesn't read his emails, but has them printed out is hilarious.
No, but I do read them. But Melissa prints out the important ones.
The important ones. Got it.
Yeah, the
Okay.
important ones. I read
Got
them, and I'm telling you, but it takes time. But I'll erase a good one in a minute because it's
Yeah.
like no check, boom, delete, delete, delete. And so, like I tell people, I'll read a text before I'll read a email.
And you also sign your text messages, Dusty, as if we
Yeah,
don't know who's texting.
everybody doesn't do that.
Because it says who it's from.
Well, I
It
want
says
you to
the
know.
contact name. So I know when it comes in that it's you. Though your phone
Okay,
number is private, which is always terrifying. I'm like, who's calling me?
right.
But your text messages, we know. No,
Yeah,
not
but the
everybody
reason
does
I
that.
got it private is because see, sometimes certain members of the press, not many, pass your number around.
Yeah. No,
And
I
I mean,
understand.
yeah, I was getting calls from everywhere, North Dakota, Maine. I mean, you name it, Illinois, on every subject. And you know how I feel about that phone. And
Yeah.
see, all my friends and Melissa, she says, they all say I cut them off on the phone, and they were like, they were calling me like, 3 minutes. Signal went through in the old days because,
I
hey
love that
man,
the phone is ringing in the background right now.
yeah, and see, and check this out. And see, I'm one of the last people that has a landline.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a landline because I don't want to leave my cell phone on during the day and at night. I want to get some
Right.
sleep. And I have a landline in case there's a emergency within my family because
Right.
they have my landline.
Right. Right.
So
Right. Wait, I want to talk about the media because I know that you have had a long relationship with them as a person who's been in the public eye for a long time. I remember there were certain cities that you didn't care for them as much as others. I won't name names, but I remember.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, you talk about in the book, you come from this family. Your mother was political and sort of, not necessarily political, like politically active, but was political and believing in the equality of Black people. Your aunt, you have a picture with your aunt with Martin Luther King in the book, which is so cool. And, I know you, so I know that you have political beliefs. There's mentions, there's comments about Obama in the book. In the epilogue, you sort of talk about this period in American history right now. But I also know that you, as a Black manager and player, were really cognizant of your perception in the public eye, what the media would say about you, how they would twist your words, how they would make you, what the media does, right? And so I'm wondering if there were ever times in your career looking back where you wished you had said something or you wished you had done something that was maybe like spoke out more or stood up more for anything when you look back.
Not really, Tracy, because like a lot of times, when I spoke, I would speak in a sense of a parable that you had to look into what I said, because I say what I mean. And a lot of times it's gotten me into trouble, but at the same time, I think I spoken out plenty. The problem was that I was speaking out about the same things over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And see, to me, that's a waste of my time, especially if no one's listening. And if you keep talking about the same thing, the equality in sports. Every year it's during Black History Month. Every year it's during Jackie Robinson Day. And then after that, we don't do nothing about it. I mean, there are less black players in the game now, less black players. I mean, people in the front office, less black coaches, black scouts, everything. And,
Yeah.
and it gets frustrating, because, nothing's kind of, been done. I mean, there are a few things that, improvements in the game, but there are a whole bunch of things that have been deleted along the way. And, I was not the only qualified black man to take a job as a manager.
Right.
There's a lot of qualified guys out there, but it just seems like, it seems like there's a quota of two. You know what I mean? And that's been and then before that it was a quota of 3 or 4. And it's just frustrating when you see, you hope that what you have done in your life will help others, but
Yeah.
it doesn't appear as such.
Do you think we'll see a resurgence of Black American players in the league? Do you think that there's a path forward to that, or do you
Yeah.
think that those like lines have sort of dried up over the
No,
last
no,
few
no.
years?
I think there's a path forward. Baseball's making a conscious effort to help black kids play, because it's a very expensive sport to play now. It wasn't like that before. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays, I mean,
They
I
all
saw
are. All the sports are expensive now,
Oh
even
yeah, I saw that
basketball.
with my son. With the travel ball and the equipment and the travel and the hotels and different things. And one of my godsons, Delvin Matthews, the son of Gary Matthews, one of my best friends. Well, he and Jerry Manuel, who's my homeboy here in Sacramento, used to be a ball player at the Tigers. He manages the White Sox. They're in charge of putting on clinics, games, Dodger Town, just different games all over the country to help black kids play. And if they play, then some of the brothers have to make it because they can play.
But do the
I
kids
mean,
even want to play? Like, or do they want to be basketball players or soccer play?
well,
Like, I feel like culturally, baseball is not like. I feel like back in the day, like in the 70s and 80s and 90s, it was like Barry Bonds and like, in Oakland, obviously in the 70s, it was the A's. They were such a big deal. They won 3 in a row. Like, and there were
I
all
know,
the brothers on the team.
but see, Tracy, back then, you know, there were more uh, brothers playing baseball.
Right.
You
So
know,
that's what I'm wondering. Like,
and and
if the
and,
kid is
and
good, do they want to go into baseball or are they still hoping they're going to get a basketball or,
I didn't want to go. I love
You
basketball
didn't.
too now.
I
Okay,
know. I,
I
I
love
I love
basketball.
basketball too.
Oh
I'm just
yeah, I
saying, like
mean,
the kids aren't talking about. I feel like young people today aren't talking about and watching baseball in the same ways that even in the 90s I was. Like baseball was my number one sport. When I was reading the book and you brought up Ellis Burks, I was
yeah,
like, my guy.
yeah.
Remember my 13th birthday?
Oh
I got a
yeah.
picture with him and you got him to sign the ball for me. And my dad was like, why do you like this old man?
And this
And I
old
was like,
man could play. He could
I
play, but
loved
but
him. He was my favorite.
but
And
Tracy, they had those guys are heroes. A
yeah,
lot of the kids don't have the heroes that we had then. You know, my heroes were Jim Brown and Gale Sayers and Lenny Moore in football. And then I had like Bob Hayes in track. And then I had Elgin Baylor in basketball. And I had Tommy Davis, in baseball, guys to emulate and look up to. And when I was a kid, they had the Sepia, Ebony, and Jet. And I think Ebony or one of them had the number of blacks on every team in the league.
Right.
And I never forget that I was motivated at that point in time because the Pirates, the Braves, the Indians, historically,
The
there was
Giants,
one,
right?
yeah, and the Giants. They had the most combination of black and Latins, and so you know, uh, once some of these kids come back into the fold and make it to the big leagues, because see, some of them going to make it,
Yeah.
and especially when you have a few brothers that are number one draft choices. See, when you're number one draft choice, they're going to give you every opportunity to make it because they want a return on the investment, whatever they signed you for. And see, it is a business, and when you're a lower round draft choice, you have to impress in a hurry because they don't have a whole bunch of money invested in you. So hopefully soon here, and I hope in my lifetime that we'll see more and more and more, and then it'll turn over, and then hopefully we'll see, once they start talking about how much money some of these guys are making,
Right.
it's like, oh wow, man, I better go play baseball. But it is hard, Tracy, if you love basketball, to get basketball out of your system because see, the way I got it out of my system is to hurt my leg and
You
it
got hurt.
almost, yeah, I got hurt and it almost cost me my career. And I didn't fall in love with baseball until I hurt my knee playing basketball. And
Right.
there was a song when I was a kid and I was a teenager called Basketball Jones by Cheech and Chong.
Mm-hmm.
I had it bad. Trust
Mm-hmm.
me. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching all the sports. I love all the sports. The older I get, the more I love baseball, which probably makes sense. But I mean, like the World Baseball Classic, I think the USA team only had 2 Black Americans on the team. That to
Right.
me is crazy. Like
And me too.
that to me, it's
Yep.
just like, how are the kids even going to have role models in baseball when there's like 3 of them? It's like Mookie Betts and Aaron Judge, and that's it. And I mean, Mookie Betts wasn't even on the World Baseball Classic team. He didn't make the All-Star game last year. But it's just like I'm so worried because I want us to be out there. I also have so many. Well, let me ask you, what do you think of the runner on second and the pitch clock and all of the new rules to make the game faster?
Well, some of it's good. The only thing I don't understand is why we got the runner on second during the season, and then once we get to the playoffs, then we don't have the runner on second anymore.
Yeah, I
And,
don't I don't
and,
like
and
that's the one I hate the most. I hate the runner
right,
on second one. I hate
right,
it.
right, right, because you got to earn your way on second.
Yes, it's
But
just like, oh,
but
someone's just gonna be there.
yeah,
No,
but Tracy, nobody, no, my opinion wasn't asked on any of this,
I
and
know.
and and,
That's
and
why
it's
I'm
something.
asking you
No,
now.
no, but listen, but on sometime, people say, how come you haven't stood up more, this and that? Because see, sometimes you realize that your voice not going to mean anything because people are going to do what they want to do anyway. Especially those that are in power will do anything and by all means necessary to remain in power. So therefore, sometimes I say and sometimes I don't say. But if I don't say, then I'm waiting for the right opportunity to say. That makes sense.
It sure does. Sure does. Yeah, I don't like the new rules. I always tell people I feel like the most like my dad every time baseball makes a rule
Yeah,
change.
I know.
I get so mad about it.
But it's too
But,
late.
I know.
It's too late, Tracy. I'm just telling you that we got to
I
find a
know.
way. We got to find a way to play within these rules, whether you like them or not.
I know. I still watch, but I just don't like it as much when we get to extra innings and then they just trot out some fast kid and put him on second base. I'm like,
Yeah,
where'd you come from? You just out there now?
yeah. You made the last out, the kid.
I'm just
That's
like,
not.
surprise, here you are. I hate this. um, there's a story that's not in the book that you've told me before. Can I make you
Mhm.
tell the people about it, about Pete Rose?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I just remember when I read the Pete Rose book, I text you and I was like, I just read this great book about Pete Rose. And, I remember you saying you always liked him. And then you told me why you liked him. Will you tell
Oh, I
them?
love, oh, I love Pete Rose, and Pete was cool with almost all the black players, especially back in the time when it wasn't cool to be. And he was close to Vada Pinson and Frank Robinson, and he took a liking to me and Ralph Garr from the get go because we came into the league hit. And Pete loved competition. He's like, "Hey Baker, keep up with me today." He'd always ask, "How many hits you going to get today?" And I said, "I feel like a 2 for 4, Pete." And he'd say, "2 for 4." He said, "Man, why are you giving away two outs before you even get to the plate?" And I was like, "Hey, that makes sense." And that's why Pete Rose got 4,000, and I have almost 2,000. But Pete Rose told me, "Say, man, I must be part black. You see this butt I got? You see this ass?" And I said, "Yeah, Pete." And I tell you, he he used to kill me. But Pete helped me. Pete helped me uh, at a time long after I was in my playing time when I was having some problems off the field and fighting Uncle Sam and the taxes and stuff. And when I was on first base as a player, Pete Rose, I asked him, I said, "Pete, how are you doing this?" Because in the middle of his 44 game hit streak, he was getting divorced. His dad died, all kind of stuff. And he told me that you have to use baseball as a sanctuary away from your problems, because when the games are with your same problems you came to work with are going to be there when you get home. And then that really resonated with me almost 15 years later. But
Uh-huh.
but that goes back to what I tell these kids that Hank Aaron used to tell me things, and he'd say, "Dusty, you understand?" I said, "Oh yeah, Hank, I understand." I didn't understand nothing. So he's like, "Well, I know you don't understand really, but," he says, "whatever I'm telling you," he says, "to retain it." And that was some of the best advice I ever had. And then if you can call it up when you need it upon command, boom, you'll know what to do in that situation. And that's what happened to the same thing that Pete Rose told me. I called it up, boom, and I was like, "Man, Pete is telling the truth." Because see, when you get home, those problems are going to be there. But it's hard. It's easier said than done.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few questions I ask everybody who comes on this show. So I'm going to ask you, when you were working on this book, what was your routine like for that? How much were you writing? I know you worked with the co-writer.
Mm-hmm.
How was that process? Did you have snacks and beverages? Did you go out of the house? Were you listening to music? Like, how were you getting into the creative zone for the book?
That's a good question. Depends on which part of the book I was in. I mean, I listen to music all the time,
Yeah.
and yeah, it just depends what kind of genre I'm listening to, depending on what mood I need to be in. And no, I didn't do much of the writing. I did a lot of dictating. Steve did most of the writing because I have arthritis in my hands, and so when I love to write, and it had been too hard. I tell you, the hardest part of writing this book was to have to proofread the same chapters over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it took 2 years to write. Spent hours and hours upon the phone. Steve came over to my house. We met. He was in Europe. He was in Cambodia, Vietnam. We were talking, trying to figure out the time difference in the hours. And the hardest part, and also the hardest part was, they gave me a limit on the pictures, and my mom kept everything.
There's
You
three
know,
photo sections in the book. I loved it. I loved
I
it.
I, I could have had 8. I'm serious about that. And the next difficult thing about writing a book was having to kind of regurgitate and relive some of the some of the things that I had tried to suppress and had suppressed it. But if you're going to tell your story, you got to tell some of the good with the bad. I mean, you can't tell. It's nobody's business of knowing everything, but you can tell, most things. And the thing I didn't want to do was to involve or tell on anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's not me.
You didn't answer about snacks and beverages, and that part's important. So I got to get you on record. Do you have
Okay.
writing snacks and beverages?
Uh,
I don't think I've ever seen you eat a snack ever.
no, I don't snack much. You know what I do? I just like in baseball during the game, I eat fruit.
I was going to
And
say, I remember when we went to Seattle
yeah.
2019 for
Oh
Billy's
man.
mom's thing, you brought peaches to the
Yeah.
ballpark and we were eating peaches in the seats. And I was like, I was so pregnant. And I was
Hey,
like, this is the best
I love
peach.
Seattle because I love going down to the market.
Yeah.
It's the finest market. I mean, I get the Rainier cherries and I come back with peaches and nectarines, and it keeps my sugar level up and it keeps me sharp. Now that's what I
Yeah.
do. When I'm writing or in baseball, and it got to be a joke because see, some of the guys would steal my fruit. I put it in the ice chest and have it like real cold, and I'd go in there and then I like, hey man, who stole my fruit? And I'm trying to act mad, but I'm not really not mad. It's like a little kid. And so the guy would tell me, and they know I don't like snitches. So
Mm.
so they wouldn't tell me. But then some guy would point over here like, and it was always the same guy. Usually it was Framber. Framber would always, Framber Valdez, I mean, he was a culprit. I mean, he'd get my nectarines, he'd get my peaches, get my apricots. And so, like you said, I know I don't snack much. Now, my weakness is cookies, like, late at night, oatmeal raisin, kind of soft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I love a cookie. I love a snack. I love
I
a
do
snack.
too. But see, I can't snack too much either because see, I'm a type 2 diabetic. And so I check my vitals every day to make sure that I'm staying right and stuff. So
Okay, another question I have to ask you on the record is what's a word you can never spell correctly on the first try?
Perseverance.
Ooh, good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, and then last question for you. If you could have one person, dead or alive, read this book, who would you want it to be?
Boy. Marcus Garvey.
Wow, that was a curveball. I wasn't seeing that coming. I love that answer. That's so good.
I love throwing you curveballs.
I love it. You always surprise me, though. Every time I ask you a question and then I'm waiting for the answer, I'm like, what's he going to say? All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. You can get Crossroads out in the world wherever you get your books. You can read it and see all the pictures. You can get the audiobooks. It is out as you're listening. It's out now. Dusty, thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming on the show.
Dang, little Tracy, you're a woman now. That's hard for me to accept.
I'm going to be 40 this year.
Yeah, you're looking great and you are good. You're good. I mean, I admire you and your whole family and your brother, your mom, your dad, because you guys are on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you. And everybody, we will see you in the stacks. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you again to Dusty Baker for joining the show. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Tammy Blake and Melissa Baker for making this episode possible. Our book club pick for June is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which we will be discussing with Mary H.K. Choi on Wednesday, June 24th. If you love The Stacks and you want inside access to it, head over to patreon.com/The Stacks to join the Stacks Pack and check out my newsletter at tracythomas.substack.com. Make sure you're subscribed to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, take a moment right now, just go ahead and do it, and leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, you can follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. And you can check out our website at thestackspodcast.com. This episode of The Stacks was edited by Christian Duenas with production assistance from Sahara Clement. Additional support is provided by Sheree Marquez, and our theme music is from Takirajis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.